I'm in the game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
He don't want
circles
no
around.
smoke. He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done
Okay
made.
then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't bothering you.
They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
Jim Jones recently appeared on Shannon Sharpe's podcast, where he stated that he believes he holds more influence than Nas, not just in terms of staying relevant, but in being more impactful within the culture. After making this bold claim, the conversation quickly shifted. 50 Cent didn't offer a direct response or openly criticize anyone. Instead, he quietly posted an old federal document on Instagram, leaving fans to draw their own conclusions. Since then, supporters and observers have been revisiting old wiretaps and rediscovering past footage. Meanwhile, Jim Jones has been focused on his fitness, releasing diss tracks, and making strong public statements as if preparing for either a major confrontation or possibly time at Rikers Island. However, this issue extends beyond Nas and personal pride. It appears that 50 Cent is using the situation to subtly remind the industry of his lasting influence and perhaps to question why some individuals have consistently managed to avoid legal consequences. Jim's original comment may have been aimed at proving his own significance, but he may have unknowingly triggered something much larger than a simple musical dispute. There's a reason why conversations about Nas always seem to strike a deeper chord when Jim Jones is involved. Their tension isn't new or just another generational disagreement. It traces back to 2002 when Nas appeared on Hot 97 and unexpectedly criticized Cameron, dismissing his album without much explanation. That moment put Dipset on alert, and Jim Jones immediately stepped into the fray. From that point, the conflict steadily grew. Nas and Dipset exchanged diss tracks on mixtapes, and Jim made the feud personal, going as far as threatening to slap the kufi off Nas and carrying that same confrontational energy into songs like We Fly High and It's More Than Music. Yet, the situation is complex. Despite their history, Jim Jones has always acknowledged Nas's talent and influence. In fact, just a year ago, he was publicly speaking highly of him.
But I never got to, did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it and things like that. That was like still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that. Like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before anybody.
However, that initial respect soon turned into subtle criticism. Things changed when Jim appeared on Fat Joe and Jadakiss' podcast, where Fat Joe stirred the pot.
I recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
That's my young boy.
big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying, Nas is like a god.
In my era too.
That moment could have easily remained just another brief comment on social media, but Jim wasn't ready to leave it there. He wanted to explore the topic further.
All right, Nas. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade. So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
Then, unexpectedly, Jim made one of the most daring statements in recent hip-hop discussions.
Came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them. Some of them, though. But
You know what I mean?
A lot
Like-
of them, though.
Jim didn't simply claim to be more relevant, he firmly positioned himself as more influential than Nas. Nas from Queensbridge, the icon behind Illmatic, God's Son, King's Disease, the same artist who continues to sell out Madison Square. Garden in his 50s. Yet, Jim didn't back down. He confidently stood by his statement.
Me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and and I'm not taking nothing away from nobody. But I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this shit about the industry. I've been putting on.
That interview didn't just generate reactions, it completely changed the direction of the conversation. Before the buzz from that podcast could settle, Jim appeared on another show, this time on Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap with Shannon and Chad Okasinko Johnson. Jim was prepared to stand by his previous comments, but ended up pushing the conversation even further. Shannon immediately challenged him, opening the discussion by saying,
Let me ask you a question, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little bit.
What Jim said in response took fans by surprise and made many stop the episode to process it.
I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of shit. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that
but
bullshit.
listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit run.
Just when it seemed like Jim had moved past the comparisons, he made yet another bold claim. Jim brought up the long-standing Dipset vs. Nas rivalry from the early 2000s. Although he emphasized his respect for Nas and described himself as a genuine fan, he argued that he had now surpassed Nas in cultural influence. Jim shifted part of the discussion toward Nas's impact on fashion, recognizing him as one of the most stylish figures in music, but consistently returned to his key point: Nas no longer influences the streets the way Jim believes he does.
Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
Ain't no shame in that. There a lot of them both came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like.
Shannon wasn't willing to let it slide.
You've been in this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look
ain't
how you
effing with
dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. The
But
things
I-
that we, the listen to
I can
the
be in the
things-
church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, y'all know you on that good stuff, but you not seeing Nas.
At the same time, Jim became so frustrated that he started joking about Shannon's clothing.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better
It
than
don't
Nas.
matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Ain't nobody,
Ain't all in your,
ain't
all in
nobody
your
from
filth.
Dipset gonna take
Shannon,
you
that
over
shirt-
Nas.
that
Nobody
shirt
from the
too-
Diplomats
that
but
shirt-
you.
That shirt too tight.
Hold on, Jim. Hold on.
That shirt too
Hold on,
tight.
Hold on.
That
Jim,
shirt
Jim,
too
Jim.
tight. You want to go back
Hold
to
on.
I Really Mean It? I Really Mean It started. We could go back to
but
the
I just
history,
said,
bro.
for you to even
Don't do
say that.
By that point, Oko was just sitting back, quietly watching Shannon and Jim go back and forth.
Playing at a high level.
Hey,
You better check my record,
you
heard?
jumping up and
I'm still
down.
playing
You
at
need
a
to
high
go back
level.
and get Jada. Jada
I'm
them
rapping.
cooked y'all.
I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will
we
run
not
circles
denying
around
that.
Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right
No,
now.
Right
now, I will run.
Put his
I will
microphone
run.
up. Let me take my mic off.
Saturn. I will
Give me a
run
mic.
Saturn around Nas right now.
Then Jim accused Shannon of inviting him to the show just to boost views, which caused Shannon to lose patience.
This the biggest podcast you ever been on.
on,
You
hey,
know
yo,
the podcast
you know
you been
Nas-
on
hey.
bigger than this one.
Hold on. We off topic.
I'm not a
Hold on.
podcaster.
No,
Jimmy,
no,
hold on,
hold
hold
on,
on.
hold on,
This is what I do.
Joe.
You see
Name
you
a
in your
podcast you been on
feelings. You
bigger
see
than
in your
this one.
feelings. You see
When
in
you
your
get
feelings?
big, you get
This is
invited to
what I.
Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to Club Shay Shay.
That's when Shannon changed his approach. He shifted from being a podcast host to taking on Jim directly. When Jim claimed he was better than Nas, Shannon didn't just question Jim's music, he took it a step further and challenged him physically.
Start buying baggy your clothes, big fella.
Nah,
You
hey.
too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want to get me? You want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do
Since
that.
you like to talk that ish, now come see me in the gym.
We talking about
Come
working
see
out.
me in the
What
gym.
we talking about? Working out or strength?
Whoa.
Working
What we
out.
talking about? Working out or
Nah.
strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
Since
work-
you got money,
If we talking about
put your money where your mouth is.
So you talking about working out, I burn
stacks.
you. You talking about working out, I burn you. You talking about working out of strength. Because you probably can lift a lot more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than me.
Whatever.
But if you talk about working out, I'll burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You are doing good when you talk about Nas and Jada. You don't want to see this.
Instead of addressing 50 Cent directly, Jim redirected the conversation to a gym competition, looking to prove his relevance and strength in a different setting. But while Jim focused on the workout challenge, 50 had already made his quiet move behind the scenes, and that federal document was still quietly in play. Meanwhile, the audience stayed locked in through the comments. The internet appreciated that a retired NFL Hall of Famer was now stepping up to defend Nas. One fan even commented, Shannon said what Fat Joe and Jadakiss should have said. Jones, you're out of touch. Shannon, thanks for calling it out. That thought stuck with many. Why hadn't they challenged Jim during the first interview? Throughout it all, 50 Cent remained in the background, watching everything develop, and he wasn't finding it amusing. Just when it seemed like the situation had reached its peak, things became even more trivial. That's when fans resurfaced an old clip.
Yo, honestly, I can't, like, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. Even so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck do you write about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. Like, I'm like, yo, the used to have a little nervous was like B.I.G., Pop, right? Even Cannabis, like Eminem, used to have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these Jim Jones, like, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
That was seen as the highest level of disrespect. At the time, Nas didn't just dismiss Jim, he laughed him off the stage. Now in 2025, that same energy has returned, but it didn't end there. While Nas remained silent and Shannon continued, focusing on his workouts, someone else was quietly observing the situation. As soon as 50 Cent heard Jim's claim about being better than Nas, he didn't waste time. He laughed, pulled up a few posts from his extensive archive, and brought back one of the most talked about stories in hip-hop history. He labeled Jim as Individual One. That simple caption immediately set social media on fire because anyone familiar with the situation knows Individual One isn't just a casual nickname, it's directly connected to federal records. The term Individual One came from the Tekashi 669 and wiretap used during the 9 Trey Bloods trial in 2018. Prosecutors presented a phone call they claimed featured Jim Jones. Although his name wasn't mentioned in court, he was referred to as Individual One. In that call, someone was allegedly instructing others to violate Tekashi for cooperating with authorities. Jim's voice was never officially confirmed, and he was never charged, but the streets, the blogs, and especially 50 Cent have never let that moment fade. Now, as Jim appears on podcasts and compares himself to Nas, 50 saw the perfect opening to remind everyone of the story that many still remember. He went back into his Instagram archive, reposting a meme he had once quickly taken down, the one that said, "So that's why they didn't pull him in. Say ain't so Jimmy." If you look back to 2019, the Shade Room shared an update from Tekashi's trial where a verified courtroom reporter claimed Tekashi identified Jim Jones as a 9 Trey member. At that time, 50 Cent couldn't hold back either. He commented on the situation, which later led to the widely circulated clip of 50 appearing, visibly surprised and concerned.
Hiding out in Texas. Please, whatever you do, don't tell them I'm in San Antonio. Don't tell them I'm staying at the Four Seasons. Don't tell them, please don't tell them, man, because it's just so much pressure on me right now. I don't know what to do. I'm
50 Cent directly wrote, "I'm afraid for my life." I mean, Jimmy is gang gang. The internet found the comment amusing, but Jim didn't share the humor. This is where the situation shifted. 50 Cent's issue didn't start with Nas, his ongoing conflict with Jim has been active for years. The Nas moment simply gave 50 a new opportunity to address Jim in public. Back in 2007, the situation became more complex when 50 Cent brought Jim Jones and Yul Santana on stage during a G-Unit concert act, a time when Dipset was already dealing with internal issues. Cameron saw the move as a major insult, especially since Dipset was already going through its own struggles behind the scenes. Later, in 2019, during Tekashi 6ix9ine in his federal trial, Jim Jones was referred to as Individual 1 in a wiretap call played in court. Although Jim was never officially charged, the label stuck, and the internet quickly filled with accusations and speculation. Jim saw every one of 50's posts but chose not to respond immediately. Instead, he shared a throwback Bird Gang era photo that carried Dipset nostalgia. His caption read, "Why you keep lying? Lol, I'm going back to sleep. Free male matrix till it's reversed." The free male matrix reference was directed at his longtime friend, who is currently serving over 11 years for racketeering. It was a subtle response, suggesting that 50 was spreading false narratives and creating his own version of reality. But Jim didn't stop there. He followed up with another Jim post, this time adding a fresh caption. "Someone let Shannon Sharpe know he shouldn't start avoiding this challenge now. Are you going to keep talking like a podcaster, or are you ready to back it up? My sneakers are tied. You already challenged me in front of everyone, might as well see it through, champ." Oko Cinco said he doesn't want to do this in public. "I'm fine handling it privately. I understand his reputation as an athlete is important. As long as you're there to witness it, we don't back down from challenges. Where I'm from, size doesn't matter, let's go," while 50 Cent continued taking shots from the sidelines. Jim appeared to be genuinely preparing for something more serious. To build on that, Jim also posted this: "If you're over 40 and arguing with me about Nas, you've already lost. You all took the bait. My streams increase every time you make this go viral. I'm showing older artists a new marketing strategy. You're stuck in the past and upset about how things work today. It's time to catch up." His follow-up caption made his stance even clearer. "I said what I said. Peace. I can out-rap anyone from my era. Whoever is willing to step in the booth, bring your money, because nothing here is free. We're out here, we're active, take that however you want, but we're working every day." The most interesting part, throughout all of this, Nas remained completely silent. Meanwhile, Jim kept going, continuing to challenge and insisting he's more influential. If Nas ever responds, it likely won't just be a diss, it could be a complete lyrical shutdown. But now, fans are beginning to question whether Jim's approach is the right one.
"Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally, it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro."
At this point, Jim is still pressing the issue, Nas remains silent, and 50 Cent continues to operate quietly in the background. If an unreleased wiretap does exist, Jim may have walked into something far more serious than a simple rap dispute. While Jim keeps releasing music and showing off, 50 Cent has gone unusually quiet. And when 50 goes silent, that often means something significant is on the way. So now, the real question is, will Nas eventually step in and put an end to this with his lyrical skills, or will 50 Cent let the situation develop further and reveal the truth when it's too late to respond? What's your take? Should Nas answer or let this run its course? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you're enjoying this breakdown, and make sure to subscribe for more detailed stories like this. Stay tuned, this situation may not be finished yet.